What is up, Ham Radio? Kilo Echo 8, Papa Zulu November here, the Ham Radio Adventure Guy, and I've got a great show for you tonight. Not only are we bringing our first guest onto the show, but we're bringing somebody that just has really motivated me. Ham Radio Adventure Guy is all about adventurous ham radio, and our next guest is all about that too. So let's bring him onto the stream here. Carlos, what's up, buddy?
How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great, buddy. Tell our guests, tell our viewers about yourself, man.
I'm just a regular, good old everyday ham that likes to go do hammy things in non-hammy ways. How's that sound?
You're being modest. I've been an adrenaline junkie my whole entire life, and I didn't really get into ham radio until a little later in life. Had some tragedy in my life and stuff like that, and it brought me into ham radio. And I thought I was going to do it the adventurous way. And, I'd never heard about you or anything. And a couple of weeks ago, I saw one of your YouTube videos, and I was like, oh, my God, this dude is amazing. This is great. So
I wouldn't go so far as amazing, but thank you.
Oh, dude, it's just great. I've like I said, I've been an adrenaline junkie. I did BMX racing, I did adventure racing, I did zip lining, bungee jumping. You name it, I've done it. But I've always wanted to skydive. But you skydive and ham radio too.
Come see me, man. We can handle that.
I would love to, and that'll be one of my questions. So, first off, I take it you were a skydiver first, correct?
Yes, I've been a skydiver for 10 years now. Got my ham radio ticket December of 19. So, big scheme of things, that's
Right. Yeah. So what made an adrenaline junkie like yourself say, I'm going to go do ham radio?
Oh, man. Are you talking about doing ham radio while skydiving, or are you talking about ham radio in general?
First, just ham radio in general.
So ham radio in general, my uncle was a ham, and he introduced me to that when I was a child, right? So I always knew about this thing, and I was like going to get my license when I was a little kid, and I moved from Puerto Rico to the United States, and that went by the wayside. Lots of other things came and went, whatnot. And I always knew about it, but it was especially when every time I looked at it, the barrier to entry for me was price. So every time I looked at it, I'm like, I don't have $1,000 to spend on gear. This is ridiculous. Not doing it. So something happened in 2017 that made me just reevaluate my stance on it, and that is Hurricane Maria came in and blasted Puerto Rico, my home, pretty badly, right? In general, broad strokes terms, cell phone networks weren't working for about somewhere between 3 and 6 months, depending on where you were in the island. You had some cell phone coverage if you were in the metro area, in the San Juan metro area. But outside of the San Juan metro, it was scratchy at best, right? And of course, my family lives there, and I was trying to figure out a way of communicating with them. And, I talked to a local ham that I've known for a bit, and it's like, oh, yeah, I talked to Puerto Rico the other day. Sorry, what? Yeah, I talked to Puerto Rico the other day. I'm like, where in Puerto Rico? Oh, I think this guy was in Arecibo. I'm like, okay, great. Are there hams near where my family is? I don't know. Right. So, yes, there are. The answer is yes, there are. And I decided that the next hurricane that hits my home island won't catch me unprepared to talk to my folks, or at least be able to manage to get them information and get information from them so that I can assist from the state side. Right. So that was the impetus for me to just get off my butt and go get my license. On top of that, a friend of mine who it's not a prepper exactly, but then again, he's not a prepper, said, hey, you've been talking about ham radio for a long time. You really need to get your license. And by the way, he hasn't gotten his yet either. So, But that's a different story. Because you can get these ham radios on Amazon for $20, and I'm like, no, that's a scanner. That's a scanner. That's not a ham radio. It's just you can't get a ham radio for $20. It just doesn't happen. Well, of course, sure enough, Baofeng, gateway entry drug to ham radio. So anyhow, I hemmed and hawed and hemmed and hawed. He kept on pestering me about it, and he eventually gave me a Baofeng as a gift. It's like, here, now you don't have an excuse. Even though he doesn't have an excuse, and he still doesn't have his ticket. That's a different story, right? Good. So that's ham radio for me in a nutshell. The initial introduction was as a child. I knew this stuff existed. I knew how it worked, sort of, kind of. The uncle that taught me this, that taught me about this, it's a big electronics and electrical systems guy. So he taught me electronics as part of being a kid as well. So the technical aspect of it, I had a decent grasp on it. The legal aspect of it, the learning the rules and following the rules and the FCC, whatnot, that's the part that always got me in the test. So it's one of those things I've had to learn the hard way. At least not the hard way with the FCC involved, but the hard way as in I had to actually hard study the rules to be able to pass the test.
Right. Well, I mean, that's like with me, like most of the test, I didn't really learn much. I learned much more from doing after I passed the stuff.
Exactly.
But all right, so you get your ham radio license, and as somebody who started ham radio at a very young age as well, my dad was an operator, and he did it my whole entire life. And I used to love to go to the mailbox and get his cards out of the mail and see where he's talked to and everything. And I started really early. Matter of fact, I knew Morse code at 7 years old.
Wow.
Of course, now I don't even remember that stuff. So I get older and I move out of it. But you brought up the prepping thing, and I got into that a little bit. And of course, I got me the $25 radio, and I threw it in my bag. And as a prepper, you're just like, well, if the shit hits the fan, we're just going to use it anyway. And my dad passed away, and I said, I'm going to go do this to honor him. And after I did that, and I got my license, this is something that all preppers should think about. You're not going to know how to use the thing.
Bingo.
You're not going to know how to use the thing if you don't start. You don't just say, well, I'm going to make fire without matches. No, you practice that. Exactly. So why not get your license and practice ham radio? But
and that's where I'm at with my friend. I'm like, listen, you don't know, squat about this. And yes, pushing the PTT button can be handled by my 3-year-old nephew. Not a problem. But how do you make it work, right? How do you program that thing? How do you know that you programmed it right if you don't have a license to actually transmit legally? Because, excuse me, I don't know where you are, but around here, the hams are real hounds about it. If you key up and you're not saying something, they foxhound you to figure out who you are and what you're doing. Like the local club has a monthly fox hunt for that purpose. That's the only reason they do it. It's like they want to be able to find guys that are doing it the wrong way. I'm like, okay, well, knock yourself out. That's your thing. I have way too many other things to do to be trying to figure out who's broadcasting illegally.
Exactly. I wouldn't mind doing the fox hunt just for the fun part of it, but I ain't worried about who's keying up on the radio. But so you get your license and you're already a skydiver. What makes you think, skydiving isn't extreme enough? I'm going to take my radio and I'm going to make QSOs while I'm jumping out of an airplane.
It is the curiosity aspect of it for me, right? So, yes, I knew I could make contacts on the radio using a repeater. I knew I could make contacts on the radio doing simplex, right? I knew I could do these things, but there was a range, right, that it wasn't going to go past, especially with my handy talkie. And I wanted to see how far I could push my handy talkie distance wise. I wanted to see if I have a high enough mountain, how far can I go with 5 watts and this little, I bought myself a nicer HT. It's a Yaesu FT3DR. So how far can I take this this HT? Exactly. That's it right there, right? How far can I make this go if it really matters? If I'm 100 feet above the terrain, how far am I going to get? If I'm 200 feet above the terrain, the thing is, bad stuff happens. For the most part, older planes are still going to be able to fly. Newer planes, not so much. Older planes are still going to be able to fly. So maybe there's a chance I can talk to someone that's flying around, because I don't have a plane, but I can have a general idea of how far communications will work on 5 watts and an antenna. And that's really what was it. I got my ticket in December of 19. Yeah, 19. And I experimented with the HT until April, and my brain went, how far can I make this go? Because I'm just trying, like, Indiana's flat. I live in the what's the beginning of the corn and bean source of the world, because that's all we grow here. And of course, someone's going to put in the comments, we also grow wheat. Yeah, whatever. We don't grow that much wheat. So, my brain immediately went, wait a minute. I have a really tall tower if I want it. I have a really, really tall tower if I want it. It's just that I'm descending it no matter what. I was like, it's no big deal. Skydiving is called a high pull. So you get out of 14,000 feet and you open up right away. Instead of doing any free fall, you just open up right away. And you normally just pilot your canopy up top. It lets you practice your canopy piloting skills. It lets you dial in some things you want to work on, right? So that you can make more extreme moves with your canopy and whatnot. I've done a bunch of these type of jumps, without the radio. And they're a lot of fun, because when I have 14,000 feet to play with, I can do things that push the envelope of the capacity of my body and the capacity of the wing that I can't do when I'm at 3,000 feet. Doing them at 3,000 feet is foolish, and I just don't do that. I'm too old for that stuff. They don't make spare parts for me yet, and I'm too old to mend the natural way easily, right? So I'm not doing silly stuff at 3,000 feet. It's just not going to do it. So anyhow, my brain thought, well, you could just make a high pull and take your HT with you and see how far you go. And the first jump I made, I figured it'd be a 1 or 2 jump thing. Make a jump, try to make some contacts, see how far we go. Simple. So I did. I used KI6NAZ's Discord and his YouTube channel. I mean, it's a Facebook page. And I made a simple announcement. Hey, I'm about to go up in about 45 minutes to the greater Chicagoland area, maybe further. I really didn't expect to get past Chicago, because Chicago's 50 miles away, 60 miles away. And I have this little HT with 5 watts. How far can I go, right? So sure enough, people lined up, and I got on 5.2 and called CQ, and there's Milwaukee. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, that's a bit far. Just kept on calling CQ, made a few QSOs and whatnot. I land from that, and I think nothing of it. I made another jump that same weekend, got home, took my GoPro video, and just slapped it online. I didn't do any post to it. I didn't now I will do post work to it to clean it up and, make the calls, show up on the screen and whatnot. But I just threw it there the way it was. And I posted it on Reddit saying, hey, I did this weekend. I thought it was pretty fun. And the next thing I know, I wake up and there's like 1,000 views on the video. And I'm like, what? This does not add up. It's just some idiot jumping out of an airplane saying CQ. That's all there's to this. That can't be this popular. And before the end of the week is over, I'm at 4,000 views and I'm just mind blown. So my brain says there's something to this, right? I didn't expect there to be something to this. But here we are a year later. There's something to this. Because every time I go up, people line up and pile it up. I don't think of it as that big of a deal, but I have fun doing it. So, and people are lining up for the QSO. So I have no way of saying, like, my brain won't let me say no. It's just like, yeah, come on, let's go do this.
There's definitely something to it. I mean, you know, when I first got my general ticket, I started hunting parks on the air. And, you know, when you hunt parks on the air, you're searching that person. And, you know, it's fun when you get through and stuff like that. But then I started activating parks on the air and people were hunting you. And it's so much more fun. And, you know,
Piles up, man.
Your last jump, the amount of people, I could hear you clear here in West Virginia. I could hear you clear as can be. You couldn't hear me for nothing because there were so many people in there just trying and trying and trying to get you. And I mean, it was way worse than a late shift on Parks on the Air. You know, you were this crazy DX country way over there, and you just popped on everybody's radar. It was nuts.
Well, I will say that I had an unfair advantage on Saturday night. This past Saturday night, I had an unfair advantage, and that was the original intention was to have Steve T.O. temporarily offline MC it. So I sent them a message, I don't know, sometime in the mid-morning saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do. We have night jumps scheduled, which are rare enough, right? We try to do night jumps once a month during the season. The season's about 7 months long. And maybe half the time they get pulled off. The other half of the time, either there's not enough people or the weather whirls in or it's too cold or any number of things can call them off, right? And as soon as I knew that it was going to happen, I signed up. It's like, I need to take a slot on this because I'm going to go do HF on 20 and see how far I can push 20 at that time of the night where, you know, on the ground, 20 after sunset ain't so hot, at least not right now. So let me see how far I can push it. And you know what? I pushed it to Panama, which is, actually, I pushed it to Panama the week before. But that's a different story. Anyhow, so T.O. couldn't make it. Well, let me back up. He said he wasn't sure if he could make it or not because he had plans with his family already. He had already made plans long before I had said, hey, I'm going to go do this. So Jeff said, well, who can be a backup MC? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe Josh, maybe Beer Snack, maybe you. And Jeff didn't really want to be the MC. He would rather be on the ground doing ground support, which is what he wanted to do, which is perfectly fine, right? He says, well, message them because we haven't heard. This is late in the afternoon. I don't know. It's probably 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So we haven't heard from Steve. Message them because if we're gonna live stream, we need somebody to MC this because I'm gonna be ground support. I'm like, okay, cool. So I messaged Josh and Beer Snack at the same time, figuring one of the two is going to answer, and if one answers, they might say yes, and if not, what I'll do is I'll just make the jump, record it, not live, live. Live stream it, and we'll just go from there. Just I'm sure I can get enough traction by just without any announcement. Excuse me. So Josh got the message right after he finished his live stream, and he sent me a message right back saying, yes, let's do this. And I'm like, cool. Well, I mean, not for nothing, but Josh has a huge following. So the moment he goes live, a few thousand people get a notification immediately. Hey, Josh is live. So that's an unfair advantage in terms of the amount of people that were lined up. Because the moment he went live and said, hey, we're going to go do this, and I'm in seeing this, his followers just naturally get that message and they're lined up. I mean, TO would have had a similar effect, just not to that scale. And I still guarantee you that I would not have been able to handle the pileup from TO. Just, TO's got a few thousand subs, and if 10% of those people were to get the message and tune in, I can't handle that much traffic. Just can't. So sure enough, we went and did this thing, and boy, was it popular. Like ridiculously popular, to the point where it's borderline obnoxious to, like, because you call QRZ and there's 30 people in one key up and you can't make any of them out at all.
Yeah, what was annoying to me was you would actually call somebody's call sign back, and then 30 people would still jump in.
Exactly. So, if I say, Jim, only Jim, come back, I mean Jim, only Jim, come back. I don't mean every Jim in the land. I just mean that Jim. But with the help of Jeff and TO and a couple others on the Toads Discord, I think we have a pretty decent plan, a better arrangement. We had a plan. Steve was actually was driving to Space Camp with his daughter earlier this year. When he came back up north, he swung by here. We spent a couple of days here. I should say a day and a half or so here. And we talked about this, and we had a plan hashed out. I wrote it as best as I could, and I just got elaborated on, if you will, over the weekend or over the week here in the last week. So going forward, we're definitely going to manage this like a directed net, with a net control that, takes check-ins while I'm getting ready, multiple, maybe net control and several relays, just hopefully, because once I hit that altitude, I hear people that they're not going to hear, right? So the relay is going to work for the check-in, and then make that whole, hey, Carlos, you have Jim lined up, and then you have James lined up, and you have Jamie lined up after that, right? So hopefully on the next jump, it'll go a lot smoother. There were a couple of stations that were not being very good stewards of the air.
For sure. So I see that you also do parks on the air, and I'm a big parks on the air person myself. I love it, and I'd love to do what you're doing as well. But do you still get the same excitement going out and activating a park?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, a pileup is a pileup. No matter where you are, a pileup is a pileup. And to be popular enough in terms of that guy's doing something special, that somebody just the pileup happens, it doesn't matter whether you're in a park or in a parachute, it's still pretty cool stuff.
Awesome. So if there's any ham radios out there, that are thinking, what he's doing is cool, I'd really like to do that. What advice could you give to them? What do they need to do to prepare and get themselves ready to do something like this?
So understand that I am an expert skydiver. I am a professional skydiver. I make part of my living skydiving. So I have a lot of experience that the average skydiver may not have, right? It doesn't, you can rack up 500, 600, 700 jumps in a year if you wanted to, and you had the money to do it. But there's also a time investment in skydiving that you don't get to see all the possible things that can go bad unless you spend 5 or 6 years in the sport. So on average, I don't make anywhere near the number of skydives as other professional skydivers do. I have friends that are, at the drop zone all day, every day, April through November, and then they go south for the winter and do the same thing in the south. So they get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 jumps in a season. I'm 10 years in. I got 1,000 jumps, right? But I've also seen a lot of what can be mitigated in terms of what can go wrong. So if you want to get ready to do this, understand that you're not going to get your skydiving license and go do this right away. If you did, you're a fool and you're going to hurt yourself, because there's a lot more to flying a wing than just flying the wing. You have to understand how the winds affect your wing. You have to understand how your body affects your wing, and you have to understand how everything that you're doing under that wing affects the wing, period. And that only comes with experience. So if you wanted to do this like I do it, be ready to spend 5 or 6 years learning how to skydive. Like, because you can learn how to skydive and get your license in a week, but you're not going to have the experience that you need in a week. You're not going to have the experience that you need in a year. So that's one way, right? The other way is come do a tandem with me. If you want to do this and you don't want to spend 5 years getting ready to do this, and you don't want to spend thousands of dollars in gear and in knowledge, getting your license and everything else, come do a tandem with me. I'll say that you're limited to an HT. You're not going to be carrying what I carry. You're not going to carry an IC 706 and going on 20 meters. You're not. I'm not going to let you. And neither is any other tandem instructor, right? But if you want to do the whole, parachute mobile thing, come do a tandem with me. I know that there are other tandem instructors that will do this. I was contacted. I don't have his QSL card handy. It's over there, and I wasn't even ready for that. But there's a gentleman that sent me a QSL card from Louisiana, and it's a picture of him under a tandem as a tandem student doing parachute mobile. He took his HT with him, and the first time he hit the repeaters in the area, and the second time he did simplex, and the third time he's done like 5 or 6 jumps this way. So are there tandem instructors that will that will actually work with you on this? Yeah, absolutely. You also have to be very safe about it. So there are some protocols that I haven't talked to any of them, but I know the protocols that I came up with. If you're going to go with me, there's certain, there's some rules to this, and we got to follow them, because I have plans for tonight, and they don't include being in the hospital or the morgue.
So there we go, guys. If anybody wants to do a tandem jump with the master of parachute mobile, hook him up, man. Give this guy a call.
I'm not the master of parachute mobile yet by any means. There's a group out of San Francisco that has been doing this way longer than I have, and I didn't know it until I posted my video. So if you go to parachutemobile.com, it will redirect you to a WordPress site for their setup, right? They're in San Francisco area. I don't know exactly where. I've actually emailed them back. We've emailed back and forth a number of times. They've been doing this for years. It's just, and actually they were on QST magazine at some point in time in the mid 20 teens, somewhere in there. And they have a lot more experience doing this than I do, flat out, without question. It just so happens that I'm the guy that's doing it right now a lot, so I'm getting a lot more attention than they are. But I am by no means the master. They really are.
Well, we'll still sort of try to send you some business your way anyway. Dude, it has been a pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Like, you are what ham radio adventure guy is all about. It's, it's not your grandpa's ham radio no more. There's so much things you can get out and do differently now.
Are you going to Huntsville?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so my plan right now is to go to Huntsville. Planned. There is a drop zone about 45, 50 minutes away from from Huntsville. And I talked to the owner today. Not the owner, the manager. Let me be clear. And he will let me do tandems there, Parachute Mobile. So if you come to Huntsville,
Uh,
let me know, and we can maybe make arrangements down there. You can key up and get you some Parachute Mobile QSOs.
that's awesome. That's what I'm all about. I've already been preparing my kayak. I'm going to do a parks on the air in my kayak. So
Oh yeah.
I've got that on the plans.
Are you
But
gonna float? Are you gonna float your ground plane with like noodles?
that's a good idea. I never thought about that.
Because you can set up a vertical in the middle of your kayak, and then the ground plane on floating noodles.
I had planned on just running them sort of around the boat, but that is a good idea. That's something I may think about and do a little bit of testing.
So just saying, I live on a lake and I've thought this out already. Like my brain's like, can I set up a vertical? Yeah, I tested my kayak. I can set up a vertical in it. I'm like, how am I gonna set up the ground plane because they're just gonna sink noodles?
Yeah, that's a good idea. But I really appreciate you coming on. Give yourself some plugs to plug your school, man. Get you some
Uh,
business.
so I skydive. I teach at Chicagoland Skydiving Center in Rochelle, Illinois. If you're gonna come my way and wanting to do this, shoot me a message. My email address on QRZ is good. The drop zone needs to know about it ahead of time, and I need to know about it ahead of time because I'm only there every other weekend. I'm not there every weekend. We can make this work. Come see me, and even if you don't want to do Parachute Mobile and you want to skydive, come see me because it's skydiving. It's freaking awesome. Give me some.
I agree, man. I agree.
If you can't come to Rochelle or if you don't want to come to Rochelle, go to uspa.org and search for a drop zone near you. Call them ahead of time. Explain to them what you might want to do. If it's not a regular tandem, if you want to do a high pull Parachute Mobile, explain it as that. Say, hey, I want to do a high pull. I'm going to bring my handy talkie, and please contact Carlos, and he has all the safety stuff and I'll send whomever my checklist for safety. I don't have a problem with that. It isn't, I'm not hoarding that stuff because I want anyone to be able to do this as long as their instructor is willing to do it. And if you're going to do it safely because there's a heavy toll to the brain injuring someone or worse, right? So let's do this safely so that you don't drop your HT and hurt someone. Besides, a good HT is expensive, and you don't want to lose it either.
I'm with you there. The 3DR, it did set back a good little penny, so
yeah,
don't want to drop that sucker.
My wife, I have a 3DR because my wife, we were in Arizona, and I decided to stop at HRO there, and I was going to buy something less than that, and my wife came in after me, and she went some other shop, and so she's like, so you spend all your money yet? No, I'm trying to decide. She goes, well, which one is the best? And the guy says, this one or that one? He pointed the 3DR and the Kenwood HT that's all the rage. And she goes, well, which one do you like better? I'm like, well, that Kenwood, the only difference in the Kenwood is that it has 220, and there are no 220 repeaters in our area, so I wouldn't use that. She goes, well, then get that one. I'm like, really? Because I was ready to spend $100.
Right.
That's almost 400. You sure? Yeah, get that one because you're gonna get that one eventually anyway. So it's either rip the Band-Aid now or rip the Band-Aid later. Like, sold. Just run the card now. Run the card now.
Exactly. All right, dude. I will not keep you. I appreciate this.
Dude, thanks for the invite. I appreciate you inviting me in. And like I said, if we're both in Huntsville and you want to make this jump, let me know. We'll take you.
It will definitely be in consideration. Even if I don't do it in Huntsville, it will be sometime soon because I want to do it. I never thought about a tandem jump like that, because I was thinking, man, it'll take me years to get used to skydiving. But tandem, that's different. You got somebody who knows what they're doing right there with you.
Exactly, and part of what you're paying for is the expertise of a pro. If your pro is willing to open high instead of normal, which is high meaning 14,000 feet, Typical tandem opening altitude is 5,000 feet. Can you still do some work at 5,000 feet? You bet. Not as much time in the air. So
All right, buddy. Thank you very much, and we'll be in touch soon.
cool,
Later.
man. See ya.
What a great show tonight, guys. That was absolutely awesome. Carlos is exactly what ham radio adventure guy is all about. And if you want to do a tandem jump or something, hook him up, man. Go out there and learn from him and stuff like that. If you like this video from Ham Radio Adventure Guy, click up here in the corner and watch another one. And also click down here in the corner and subscribe. Make sure and follow us on all social media sites. And hopefully I'll catch you on the air soon. And until next time, thanks for sharing my adventure with me.